She been kinda dirty, dog, I don't fucking want that. She been thinking that I'm tryna fucking tap that. I'm just tryna hit the vibe to smoke me sack. Man, it's cool though, I ain't pimpin' bro. I'm just smoking on a little bit of living on. Down the street on the motherfucking beat with a night drive, now I see a diamond.
We hit Tacoma, but my aim was the same. That's right at your forehead. Mean I be killing them for a while now. They never.
Alright, well, I first got into the talent management business because I realized I wasn't that great of a musician, and I'd been playing for a while, and I wasn't good at the piano and stuff like that. So the whole business thing interested me a lot because that's just kind of what I wanted to do always. You know, since I was really young, looking up to, you know, like my parents or, you know, uncles or grandparents. They were all in business, and, you know, different levels of it too, but definitely something I always wanted to do. And specifically talent management, it's just a lot of fun. You know, they tell you, as tacky as it sounds, you know, do what you love, and I think it's such a great environment to be, you know, always around musicians who are just, you know, expressing themselves and, you know, at the forefront of doing, you know, at the forefront of politics or at the forefront of what's culturally going on, and it's a very interesting environment just to, you know, soak up and always be kind of in the mode, you know.
It's in the eyes of beholders, fuck what they told us. This my life and I'ma seize every moment.
I first started with musicians, and as we started to progress the business and progress the musicians' careers in general, we started needing more and more different types of artists. And for example, like, you know, like a photographer or a videographer or graphic artists or, you know, different certain things. And as we brought in these different people, I started to realize that they all need help too in their business specifically, you know, and handling their social media pages or their brand, or maybe even just getting other clients. You know, for example, I'll get like a photographer a wedding or something like that. You know, just that's kind of how I've been rolling.
Fuck is you going? I never know, cause I'm a nomad with a notepad and no pad to rest my shoulders.
You know, I'd say the most fun part is, you know, going to shows but being backstage. You know, that's kind of like an awesome place to be because you get to see everything going on before and after and during the show, and you get to see people's direct reaction in the crowd, things like that.
I'll be my master's owner when I put this music out forward. For now I'm hitting Doja, trying to...
In talent management specifically, the whole talent part of it is such a large variable that can change no matter what. So you could have the perfect business in place around them and everything could be set up perfectly. But at the same time, if they're not making good music, or if they're not painting well, if they're not taking good pictures, then it doesn't matter, you know. And that's a very large variable to have to deal with when you're dealing with a business in general, and just you want everything to kind of be as streamlined as possible. But when you're working with people that it really depends on their creative level, that also makes it a challenge and kind of slows things down sometimes.
Soldiers, tell ya I wrote this shit this morning at the coffee, no Folgers, riding through the city.
You know, Seattle's kind of a special place as far as the culture and the music is, and that's something I've only really realized in the past 6 months, where it's very cliquey. And, you know, if you're not part of the popular people, and if you didn't grow up here or you didn't grow up in the area, it's a lot harder to come up and, you know, to gain the people's trust, because, you know, you're a transplant and they've lived here their whole life, they're locals. You know, you'll never be completely one of them, and I think that's a really big thing that's really hard. But then also you'll get a lot of good talent in Seattle, and everyone's, like, you know, like I said, super popular and throwing big shows in Seattle, but they never leave. They don't want to go, they don't go outside for some reason. It's just kind of a thing that happens. And of course there's the rare instances like the Macklemore or, you know, Nirvanas or things like that, which it'll happen, but it does not happen very often compared to how great and how much talent there is in Seattle. So that right there is probably good for my business anyways.
Life's not about jumping through the hoops.
You know, the whole talent management side of the business at the moment isn't necessarily the most profitable in my life. So I realized I needed to do something in order to float that business and to be able to do what I want. And so I started creating marriages between companies, and specifically virtual reality with different businesses, bigger businesses, and creating contracts and making the introductions, and it's kind of taken off from there. I was kind of looking into, you know, different atmospheres and different industries that are doing well at the moment and that are about to start booming, and virtual reality was one of them. And since I've already had some experience on the ground level for, you know, doing different creative things and all those different things, virtual reality was really appealing to me.
Don't live rise of another. No.
You know, I'd say the hardest part is definitely starting the business and getting the motivation to do something, you know, and kind of what I've been doing, it started just kind of flowing together and piecing itself together. And as you keep going and as you move on, you know, it becomes a lot easier because you have a foundation, you have clout, you have a reputation. And once that happens and people start to kind of tag along, I think the hardest part is being young. But at the same time, being young is kind of a double-edged sword where you're young and people might not, you know, trust your experience or trust these things. But if it's a lot easier to take people by surprise as a younger individual. People, you know, have certain expectations, and if you exceed those expectations while you're young, it means a whole lot more in the long run.
Singing, oh, 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 oh.
5 years, that's a hard question to really fathom, but you know, basically Happy Hunting is going to turn more into a brand rather than a talent agency, and meaning by something that people can really embody. So in the next year or so, it's a lot easier to say that because that's kind of how far my plan has gone. It's going to be, you know, we're going to be putting on large events in Seattle area, or maybe even in the Northwest, at least to start out, you know. So maybe in 5 years, we'll be all over the nation. That's the whole point. So it'd be an event company, a promotion company, you know, creating content for whoever it is, you know, brand management and all those things. So in 5 years, hopefully we have, you know, a solid roster of very influential artists in, you know, hopefully the world.
You may find times when you're alone. Those are the times.
I'm definitely proud of a lot of things, but I'm definitely not satisfied. So I'm proud that I'm on the right track and that I've been able to get this far out of college, almost a year, without, you know, having to take a 9-to-5. I think that's the thing where I've been able to prove to myself that I'm able to do it. I'm able to keep myself afloat, but at the same time, I'm definitely not where I want to be, and I'd say I'm on the path to get there, but it's going to take just a little bit more time.
When your heart becomes your home, don't fail your mind.
I think from a very young age, I always wanted to be in business in general, and you know, I think there's something with our generation in general, you know, the Generation Y and stuff, where, you know, you might not necessarily, everyone wants to be, you know, rich and have nice cars and boats, and I'm sure that's how it's been for a very long time. I mean, I know that is, but I think especially in our generation, there's some sort of, you know, ego pride that comes in with running your own thing and being your own person and, you know, not necessarily working for somebody. And if somebody wants to do that, that's fine. Totally okay. But I encourage anybody, you know, to go the extra step and start something and at least see where it takes you, you know, because I don't think I would be where I am unless I had that will or that power or, you know, the drive to do exactly what I want to do. I think something really big I want to get into, which is kind of associated with Happy Hunting as well, but it's more of in the film industry, you know, a lot of these big scale movies and stuff, and I'm not saying that's necessarily what I want to do, but movies in general, they have, of course, all the creative sides, the actors that everyone knows and the directors that everybody knows, but there's a whole other side to it where it's actually just a large business. You know, producers are doing a ton of the work, like, you know, recruiting money, managing the set, making sure that everything's going as planned. So I'd say in 10 or 15 years, that's what I want to be doing, is producing movies in general. As you can see here, we are being very productive in everything that we do. We got BA the Scribe, Waffles on the beat, Yodi Mac, lots of talent. It's just going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of the right music mixed in, and we will prevail.